JKB back with another episode. Today in the show I'm reviewing Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Thank you to Nintendo Canada for the review copy. This is the 17th mainline installment in the Kirby series, and it's also the first in the series that's in full 3D, but this is of course excluding the spin-offs. So I think a lot of people were expecting this to be an open world 3D game, but it's more in tune with Super Mario 3D Land. The game is broken up into a certain structure. You have a hub world where you're going to go and do a ton of different things like look at past videos. There's a Coliseum where there's a boss rush mode where you're going to be fighting some of the legacy characters from the series in general. Then of course there's some mini games in there, tons of little mini games in this game because they really focused on the idea that Kirby is going to be able to morph into a ton of items, and we haven't seen anything like this in a Kirby game, I think, ever. And the amount of variety in weapons is refreshing. You are also able to upgrade those weapons over time by finding blueprints in the levels, so that's one of the collectibles. You have to collect the Waddle Dees from each of the levels to accumulate a certain amount before you can get to the end of the main level. And at the end of the main level, you're going to have a boss. And once you pass this boss, it unlocks into further levels and different biomes in this game. So you have a jungle, a mall, you've got, tons of stuff, sand and sand levels. Did I make that up? Maybe I did. But you do have, snow levels, water levels, that type of thing. Everything you know and love about Nintendo, they've put into this game. I may have just said the sand, see, I'm having a stroke as I say this, but I may have just made up the sand level aspect because I just had a stroke. Now the game's broken up into a hub world, so you've got Waddle Dees all over the place. As you collect them, they're going to show up in the hub world and open up new shops and abilities for Kirby. Now, this is where you're going to go to upgrade your weapons as you find blueprints. You have to use certain things. I don't want to give too much away in this, but you have to use certain collectibles that you find on side levels in the open level hub world, where you're selecting essentially which level you want to go into. You'll notice that smaller levels with sort of time travel, type of things will pop up. You go into that, you complete that, you get something, you go spend it to upgrade your weapons. It's that simple. Now there's a boss rush mode in the hub world, which is pretty cool. But again, I'm going to say this game is super easy. There's a really cool, fun little mini game where Waddle Dees order lunch from you, and you have to serve them the correct lunch that they want. It is very difficult at times, but it is a, little small fun game that they've thrown into the hub world to keep things fresh. You've also got collectibles that you will unlock in the hub world, which I'm not going to get into full detail here, but there's a huge collection of characters, sort of like amiibos in-game. Not really, just kind of statues that you're going to collect. And on top of all of this, it is adorable. I want to talk about the animation for a second. Now, Nintendo decided to go full out with the animation in this game, and some of the animation in this game is the best you're going to see out of a Nintendo game, period. Kirby is expressive, dramatic, over the top. His face is adorable. The enemies are amazingly animated. This game has top tier animation, so in that regard, you're going to get a really, I would say, a deep sense of who Kirby is for the first time. Now, we know who he is as a character, but in this really opens the door to expand who Kirby is and what he's about. And in terms of the animation in Kirby and everything else, it is stellar. Now, one thing I want to bring up for sure is the co-op mode. It is very frustrating. It's going to pull the second player along as Kirby is going along in the level. So if you're going up a ladder, it's going to pull the second player up to that platform, and it's frustrating for the second player. So I played with my roommate, and it wasn't a great time. Other than just simply being there in the moment, you're not really doing much as the second player because you're being pulled around the levels. Now, of course, you can kind of tell the first player, slow down, let me collect these things. But the warping system is kind of random. It just pulls the second player to you at times when you don't think it will. So it leads to some frustration. It's not a game breaking problem in the game, but I mean, I wish I saw a split screen for this, where the second player had its own screen, cut off, and being able to go into the level and collect as much as they want and not have to worry about the first player and their movement. Now, quickly talk about the levels themselves. They're very linear at the beginning. It does open up later into the game, but the game structure in terms of its levels is really set out for collecting. It's not about path levels where you're going to find a secret and go down a whole different path. Those do exist in the game, but it's not every level. So don't expect this game to offer a large world in terms of exploration per level. Per level, you're going to see a lot of detail, have a lot of fun killing enemies. Again, I think the issue for me is the game is too easy, way too easy for me, and it's going to be more about the collecting for the hardcore platformers out there. Lastly, I want to talk about the weapons. This is where the game is going to remain fresh because there's so many weapons, so many times you can upgrade them, and you really have to go to the main, hub where you're selecting the worlds and finish those little side missions to unlock those crazy abilities for some of the weapons. Now, like I said, though, it feels a little like a missed opportunity because you can kill anything with just simply a star or another enemy. So getting those extra weapons really boils down to the boss battles. So it is a fine balance here where I believe Nintendo went with the simple route, while I wish they really introduced a very hardcore mode to this, where hardcore players like myself would really enjoy a level of difficulty that would, be at a certain standard. Because at this point in time, I'm 41, I've played every Nintendo game. I want some challenge here. I don't want it to just be a mindless collect-a-thon. And in some regards it is, but because of the animation, because it's Kirby, because of the new play mechanics with the weapons, you're getting an experience you haven't had before. But at the end of the day, I'm a little disappointed with just the combat, because overall the mouthful mode, which I should say is very hard to say, is where Kirby swallows a ton of items in this game, not just the weapons. And that sort of opens the door to new experiences, but they feel sort of cut off at times. Sometimes, you'll suck in a car and you'll have a great time controlling the car, but at the end of the day, it's just too short for me. I just want some sort of adult version of this, which I know we'll never get, but I'm gonna still say it. So overall, I'm going to give Kirby and the Forgotten Land a solid 8 out of 10. I think the high points are definitely the RPG elements of upgrading your weapons. I just wish there was a reason to do it. I feel the game is way too easy, and that's the disappointing part of this game, and that's why I don't consider it a perfect game. If they had some sort of adult, and I mean on a real adult, they gotta keep in mind their company is how old now, and the kids that grew up are now adults. They want something a little bit more difficult. I don't understand why we can't get an adult mode in some of these games. Yes, some people are going to argue, well, this is a kid's game and it's Nintendo, that's what you should get. Yeah, but I'm also 41 now playing, what is the Legend of Zelda Link to the Past came out, like 30 years ago? As of yesterday or today maybe, as I record this. I've been playing Nintendo games forever. Give me a little bit here, guys. That's all I'm asking. But other than that, we're getting a ton of variety, tons of animations, tons of personality. So 8 out of 10. I highly recommend it for somebody who likes the collect-a-thon side of Nintendo, because you're definitely not getting any, real challenge out of the game other than discovering the secrets, which are mostly behind walls. I give it away, sorry. So thank you to Nintendo Canada for the review copy, and I'll see you in the next episode of JKB.